by way of introduction. This is really one of the first times Web3 Collab, formerly Crypto Pro Cafe, has put people that are talking about four different types of projects on the same call to present. We're really looking at these sectors and seeing which sectors look interesting. These are the ones that really struck me as interesting projects and sectors. We've spent a lot of time with data and data union projects, so I don't want to discount that at all, but we've already had a couple of meetings on those. And so this one is going to be just a little bit different, where we're looking at some things that people in the group may not have thought about. We've got four presenters. Kevin, jump in and tell us how you found VeChain and why you're excited about the supply chain sector.
Okay, guys, I'm a big fan of VeChain, the business-friendly blockchain. This is Sunny Liu, the founder, how they built a new blockchain, a little bit about that blockchain, the VET-VeTho combo, use cases, possibilities to be considered an ETH killer, and then investment statistics. Sunny Liu, right person, right time. He graduated from Jiaotong University in 2002. His first job was with Netstar. Netstar would track vehicles in South Africa if they were stolen. That model is something that helped him understand the difficulties of doing that and helped him later on with VeChain. From 2005 to 2010, just large corporate jobs, 3M and Bacardi. His big opportunity came as chief information officer with Louis Vuitton. And that's where he moved out of IT and into a space where he was between the technology department and the business department. And here he learned how the business can use technology, how it depends on technology, and all the bottlenecks that business goes through, all the obstacles. During this time, Bitcoin was going through its mining spike, and he formed a company called BitC. It's a Bitcoin mining business. And somewhere in 2014, they were actually mining 5% all the Bitcoin mines. So he was doing fairly well. He was on the wave. But a key moment happened in 2015 when he met Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum. And this is where he realized that smart contracts have a huge possibility that blockchain was just not mining Bitcoin, but it could be a business, it could be used to do something. So he soon after that founded VeChain with an ERC token, ERC20 token called VEN. And a few months later, he left Louis Vuitton. Not before he got some soft commitments for when he got his blockchain going, he would have them as a customer. One of the things he first noticed getting in the industry is you have a lot of very technical people, but no one that really understood business. And he saw an opportunity here. And so what he set out to do is create a blockchain that was completely enterprise business friendly. Launches this, I just went over that. And then when he got into the business, one of the things he realized is that using Ethereum was not business friendly. It was clunky. It was difficult to program in businesses. It wasn't business friendly. It wasn't quick. It was expensive. And so he built his own blockchain based on what he learned by being an ERC20 token. And the first thing he did was build a two-token system. The VET coin is for your investment, your financial transactions, your government of the coin. VeTho is the gas. So they're separated. And the reason why that's important, because now you can regulate VeTho and let VET float freely. So if VeTho's price moves from $1 to $3, and it's much lower, it's fractions of a cent, but this is easier numbers, $1 to $3, then the cost of closing a block is going to be adjusted down so that if before it cost you 3 VeTho to close a transaction, now it might be 1.2 VeTho to close a transaction. It's, it lags the price movement, but it does get adjusted to reflect price movement so that businesses do not see the cost of using VeChain as a solution as a problem, right? They need consistent pricing. VeTho, having a separate token, allows them to regulate VeTho when VET is not regulated. It's allowed to free float. The way they can do this, instead of mining, they use proof of authority, which is similar to proof of stake, except it's centralized. Proof of authority is proof of stake, except every single proof of authority person is approved by the steering committee, which is your group of high net worth vet holders. Everybody, it goes through KYC, so they know who their holders are, and they can eliminate any potential bad actors right at the beginning. As opposed to proof of stake, there is no KYC. If you own enough and agree to stake, you're in. So I like this method. It's also very fast. In 2020, it reached a speed of 165 transactions per second, compared to what ETH's highest is 19 transactions per second, which is 8 times faster, which is why I threw in the little ETH killer thing. Now, Solana, Cardano are faster than VeChain, but they're still good. It's inexpensive and fast. What helps VeChain establish itself different from other tokens is, again, it's business friendly. So VeChain is adopted to create an Internet of Things connection. So businesses can think the Netstar car network. If you're driving, you don't want where you've driven or where you're going now hackable. Blockchain part of this helps lock that down and secure it. Second decision that Sunny made was to create it enterprise friendly. And I put down here, think Amazon. So at the beginning of the internet, and people were trying to form sites and form stores, this is very difficult to get noticed, but you could put your products on Amazon and sell them, and you could find traffic.
Supply chain management, this is what they're known for. Their leading competitor down here is IBM Food Trust. They will track a product all the way from where it's farmed, a food product, until it hits consumers. And that enables two things. One, consumers can see a barcode or QR code on a wrapped thing of broccoli and know exactly where it came from, or a salad. But it also allows Walmart China to control their supply chain more securely and see exactly to the minute when that left, when it arrived at the next juncture in the blockchain, and to know where their weak links are. Whereas before, a lot of this was done by paper. They also help anti-counterfeiting in luxury goods. Same advantages. They track the process all the way through, but now there's a chip embedded in every Louis Vuitton bag. Well, not every, but in most of their bags and some things like shoes, there are chips embedded where you can scan that and know if this is a valid Louis Vuitton item, as a perfect example. Digital vehicle passport, again, Internet of Things, think Netstar. They have the ability to blockchain. BMW Group uses them on their passport solution called Verify Car. They're also used in wine, where customers scan wine and see how it was made. Their tool chain, they now encourage a lot of companies and entrepreneurs to create dApps. They have a $30,000 per application grant to various people with $1 million per year dedicated to that. So they're very serious about getting dApps built on their blockchain. They had their last hackathon in May. They had almost $100,000 in prizes, 370 developers. And there are already thousands of dApps on the VeChain Thor blockchain. And in addition to what I just mentioned, they're also rolling out blockchain as a service and blockchain platform, their platform as a service. So to go to businesses so they can customize a blockchain or a platform for their own needs. They also are in the world of NFTs because it's cheap, because you can build on it, because it's fast, and they have NFT marketplaces. VC, World of V are both VeChain enabled NFT marketplaces. They have a metaverse called Digital, I have a typo there, but Digital Village. So they're up and coming in this realm. And so there's a lot of possibilities with it. Today, it was trading at 2.27 cents. Here's right here. You can see the last 6 months. In the downturn, this lost about 90% of its value, which leaves a lot of room for upturn on the upside when we get in the next bull market. That's about as quickly as I could move through that for you. Does anyone have any questions?
That was outstanding, Kevin. Thank you so much. This was all new to me. I'm gonna let other people ask questions first.
Just a quick clarification, understanding question. So the big idea of VeChain was to have the transaction fees be a different token, maybe a correlated token than the main chain token.
Yes.
So that transaction fees are at least less volatile and cheaper.
That's the idea. Now, I will say that VITHO tends to track VET pretty closely, but that's why they have the adjustment mechanism to adjust the number of VITHO for the gas fees as well. But the idea is they try to control that, but during the last bull market and bear market, they moved fairly in tune with each other.
I remember, I believe the Walmart China announcement with VeChain partnership was, I believe it was like 2018. And it was being heralded as like a trial run of, Walmart stores in that region, pushing the price, during that time, 2018, 2019. Has there been any announcements? I haven't been following it too close since then about the other Walmarts possibly coming online, or is it just going to be within China? Is there any rumors to that effect?
There are no rumors right now. It's strictly Walmart China. That's where they're based, and that's where everybody starts with them, is in China. But I don't know about any future developments. And I know that Walmart China is still a customer of VeChain, as well as BMW and Louis Vuitton. So those relationships are ongoing. So I believe it's just a matter of time, but I can't speak for them. I should also say I don't work for them. I just did my research on the company.
I'm just curious about this China connection. So my question was, who is the customer base? I suppose I can just go to VeChain and look at it, but I'm hearing Walmart China, Louis Vuitton. The companies that are manufacturing in China are more likely to like sign on to this project, or is the project
Yeah,
based
I mean,
in China?
that's-
Or that'll
You have Sonny Liu is Chinese. His entire executive team appears to be Chinese. So that's where their network is. So that's where they have these partnerships that they're building. I didn't bring on the picture of all their partnerships because it would have been too small on this screen, because it was it's a large group. So I just grabbed a few names that I thought everyone would recognize.
So are we talking 40, 300, 5,000? What are we talking at this point?
Oh, I would,
You-
300 to 500.
in the
These are
number.
global conglomerates that are utilizing VeChain for their supply chain. We're looking at a lot of the shipping lanes, the ports, a lot of the inventory coming in and out of countries is being regulated by this VeChain system now. So even if there are only a few hundred companies, on their webpage, it spreads out very far.
But they're mostly originating from China going out, or are there other countries? In your knowledge, you obviously know something about this as well.
There were many companies that I wasn't familiar with. They are all work in logistics, because that is their main field right now, supply chain logistics. But then you also have the Internet of Things, where they're pursuing the whole NFT marketplace thing. Threw me for a loop. I had no idea. What's amazing about VeChain from that angle is that they're getting revenue from so many different directions right now, and they're doing it well in all those directions. That where will this company be in 3, 4, 5 years when their NFT marketplace is developing and maturing, when they are known globally, not just China, but globally for their supply chain logistics security. There's a lot going on that has a lot of room for growth. And that's what I find really inspiring about this company. And the VET token is the only investment vehicle we have. If you have $1 million, you have to have a minimum of $1 million VET in order to become a proof of authority holder. That doesn't mean you'll become proof of authority miner, but that's the minimum requirement, which right now is only $22,000. And at 5 million, you hit another level. So I think the opportunity to become a serious player from an investment standpoint is there, and to be able to not just earn from the growth of the token, but also earn from gas fees of VITHO. It's reachable, whereas proof of stake with Ethereum, to earn any significant amount, it's an exorbitant amount of money. With VeChain, it's much more attainable.
So we're going to move to the next one. David Turner, go ahead and take this away.
Okay. My name is David Turner, and I'm one of the principals with Turner Blockchain Capital, which is a family office here in Sonoma County. We also have a few other businesses. Turner Blockchain is the one that's involved in the Web3 data storage. Stu Berman is with me. He is one of the principals at Picnic, which is a storage provider for the Filecoin ecosystem. And Stu, I'll let you introduce yourself for a minute here.
Sure. So Picnic has been one of the first storage provider organizations, companies using the Filecoin blockchain. While others were focused on mining, that is, mining block rewards, we've focused on actually using the protocol where it was designed for, which is to store real data on our systems. And then you use a blockchain to handle a variety of things, auditing the data, make sure on a daily basis it's not been tampered with, as well as payments that are used to facilitate this. We also came up with a program, an accelerator that teaches companies that want to be enterprise level storage providers, multi-PIB operations. So Picnic has, I don't know what the current number is, 70 petabytes of data that we're storing. We basically earn our bread and butter from storing data. I had the opportunity to meet David, so glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Stu. We've got a few slides for you here, and but before I jump into them, I kind of want to let you know how I got involved in the Filecoin system. Last year, we were trying to look at companies that were kind of building the infrastructure of Web3. We became very interested in some of the storage providers, and we'll cover a few of them today. There's Filecoin, there's Arweave, there's storage. We found that Filecoin pretty much dominated the storage system for the decentralized web. So we focused our attention on Filecoin, and that's when we entered the accelerator program last year. Turner Blockchain Business did. And what really attracted me to, I think, the Filecoin system was one of the use cases that I heard about last year that I thought was very compelling and provided a very good example of the decentralized web. And let me forward a slide here to see if you guys can see this. Last year, I became aware of the Shoah Foundation. And the Shoah Foundation, when I looked at them, the person that I spoke with about Filecoin said, hey, check them out. So I did. And it turned out that their mission involves more than just the storage of data. That what they want to do is take all of the testimony, all of the data, all of the documentation involving the Holocaust, and they wanted to place that onto, or have that recorded onto the Filecoin blockchain and placed on IPFS, because they wanted to ensure that nobody in the future, whether it be an authoritative regime, whether it be an organization, a religious group, anybody tried to change the course of history regarding World War II and what happened in the Holocaust, they would not be able to do so because the information would be stored immutably, permanently, and at a very low cost, almost a zero cost, on the Filecoin blockchain. And that's what really drew me, is that, hey, this is something with a use case. We're starting to get into a bear market, obviously, or a crypto winter, whatever people want to call it. And we really started to look at what is out there in terms of real world use cases for Web3. And, Filecoin and IPFS just really dominated the conversation. And it really drew us there. And it's why we decided to go into the accelerator program. And that's, of course, where I met Stu, and he's a wealth of knowledge regarding this information. So let me talk just a second about how storage has somewhat evolved over the years. Kind of a fun fact, in 1928, IBM had the first punch card system. In 1956, IBM had the first hard drive, which was a whopping 5 megabytes and took up about a refrigerator or a room size in terms of how big it was. In 1971, IBM came up with the floppy disk. And what I see in this history is that for at least 50 years, IBM was the company that dominated the storage business, and they were centralized in nature. What if IBM wanted to change any information? What if they wanted to do something that would be malicious in some way? Because they're centralized, there would be nothing that anybody could do about it. As you can tell from how storage has evolved from the direct attached storage the network attached storage, to the storage attached network, jumping into the AWS's, Google Clouds, Microsoft Azures of the world, and then coming into now the blockchain technology, we see that data storage has taken a somewhat interesting path. But really what's dominated up until pretty much the early 2010s was that all of this information was centralized in nature and it involved central authorities. And realistically, we can talk about who some of these providers were. I mean, we know the three names, AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. They control, I think, at last count, like 84% of all of the Web 2 infrastructure is stored on them. And so it brings up a lot of questions is, well, what if just even one of them disappeared? Or one of them decided just to not give you your data? I mean, what would happen under those circumstances? It can provide not only a critical infrastructure problem, but a problem for humanity when you have centralized authorities that really control our data. So the providers for Web3, as we talked about, Filecoin, Arweave, and storage, they're the three big players right now. There are others out there, and they're doing great jobs in Web3. But right now, Filecoin and Stu, correct me if I'm wrong, but Filecoin dominates about 87% of the storage in Web3.
Yeah, it depends how you measure, but that's about right.
Yeah, so it's a Filecoin is what I would consider to be one of the enterprise level storage providers for Web3, and will likely be so for a long period of time. We talked a little bit about Filecoin in the public cloud and the reasons why I think it's important, and that is from the top line there is the decentralized nature of Web3 and Filecoin, and how it's content based. It's available everywhere because there's nodes everywhere. If you have one region go down for AWS, you're kind of, having a problem. With the IPFS and Filecoin system, you really don't run into those kind of problems. You can see the side-by-side kind of comparison of the two. But again, for me, I think about the storage needs of the average business. What do the storage needs of an average business include? Well, include storage that you need to get right away through some type of compute system, but it involves also a lot of longer term storage. And that longer term storage, I mean, there's some crazy figures on how much the AWSs of the world charge for that as compared to Filecoin. And there's this slide where I think Stu will talk a little bit about that. But it really is striking in nature. But what is really even more striking in nature is, what if you want that data back? What happens then? Or if you just want to move it? I mean, the cost becomes so outlandish that, you have companies getting $1 million of an invoice just to, have data moved. And it can be quite cumbersome. So obviously there's some benefits we see of Filecoin here. And as I advance the next slide here, I am going to turn it over to Stu. Stu's going to talk about Filecoin and some of the more technical aspects of it, but we'll both be available for questions at the conclusion of the slides.
Thank you, David. So this is a high level overview. Typically, when we're talking to enterprises, cost savings is usually the thing that attracts them more than anything. However, we're also looking at companies that are trying to understand, like, the next turn. What's the next big technological turn? What's the next evolution of the internet? And that's, of course, what we call Web3. And so a lot of these enterprises want to dip their toes in the water, right? And right now we are really marketing long-term cold storage, archival storage, which is where really a lot of the money's at, just in terms of this sheer amount of data and where their expenses really fall. As we look into the future, we see new capabilities. Obviously, having decentralized storage has some appeal beyond the cost in terms of many of the factors David's talked about. We see really a change in architecture, we think, of how IT shops and technology will grow. One of the things that we're now exploring as a network is compute over data. And we expect that to go live early next year, where instead of taking the data and sending it to compute, you run the compute on top of the data. And the data is really in multiple places rather than centralized at either an enterprise where they store it all. Typically, they're going to store it up actually in places like Amazon or Azure. But if you can distribute this and then do local compute, a lot of that is driven by concerns about hacking or concerns about regulatory controls, right? So like Russia has data localization laws, so does China. Some in the EU, of course, they only want their data maybe kept in the EU. If you're a US business, maybe you want it to be kept in North America. So all those decisions are now, in the hands of the data owners. One of the great hallmarks of Web3 is user control, right? So we talk about decentralization, although it also applies to distribution, like where is stuff located? A real hallmark of decentralization has to do with authority and control. Who controls things? So like in the Filecoin network, we don't set a price. You as a storage provider set price with your customers, and you just, you negotiate that. So it's market driven. It's not driven by any central authority. It's in the hands of the parties that are involved rather than some central authority. Here's some price comparisons in terms of storage. Typically, again, this is cold storage. The prices are not set for Filecoin. It can be negotiated. Very commonly, we'll charge $0. It'll still be profitable because there are block awards involved, but it's really a marketing strategy. We've had companies come to us and offer us, literally in one case, $1 million to store 120 petabytes over the course of 7 years. We said, of course we'll do that. But we said, what about, the other providers out there? And they said they wouldn't bid on it. Amazon would not, respond to their bid because they had a set budget and that was far less than they would charge. One of the great hidden costs of some of these Glacier storage is they charge for downloading, for retrieving. And again, that's something that's set by the storage provider in the Filecoin network. Even Storj, I'm a node provider both for Storj, which was mentioned, and for Filecoin. I run a little node in my house here. Prices for Storj are set. I don't control them. So it's not as decentralized as Filecoin, where I can set my price for retrieval and for storage.
Yeah, so this is just our thank you slide. It has our contact information here if you'd like to send us an email or like additional information. Also, we've put the Filecoin site, which is a wealth of great information. They have a blog page with a lot of good information. They're also on GitHub, which they're very active. There's a lot of building going on right now. That really concludes, I think, our presentation, and we'd like to answer any questions you guys have.
Hi, this is Brock. Just curious, where is the most of the Filecoin infrastructure? Where does it reside? Is it in cloud solutions or in people's like small data centers or people's homes? Do you have an idea where actually the infrastructure is, like the storage is?
Sure. So there's two sides of the network. There's really in China, they do a lot of mining of the Filecoin token, and that's the majority of the network right now. Some of them are moving out of China because of regulations. Some of them are converting their operations to store data, and there's a protocol for how to convert to store data. So when you're asking about like where the miners, well, it depends. If you're talking about where the locations of people storing data, primarily you're going to see that in North America, Europe, and we're seeing Korea and Australia growing. The larger operators tend to be, that is multi-petabyte, tend to be in data centers. We run a data center out of Las Vegas. It's a high-end data center called Switch. I also personally run my own little miner. It's 1 petabyte down in my basement. So I'd say you have a lot of small miners who might be running it, out of their homes or wherever they, their business. And the larger miners tend to go into like a tier 3 type data center for stability purposes. Nobody's really running it on hyperscaler. They're not going to run it on Amazon or Azure because the hardware required is very specific and far too expensive to use, like, Google or Amazon.
You talk about cold storage, but is this a competitive solution to online storage? If you want to have your data to be accessible online?
There are some who are trying to kind of go into, let's say, more of a retail market. Earlier, we heard about NFTs. NFTs really have two parts to them, right? There's the actual NFT, the certificate, and then there's the digital media that's tied to. And there's been a big scandal about how that digital media is unsecure and will frequently get lost. So Filecoin stores a big chunk of that. I'd say 30% of the digital media used in NFTs is stored on Filecoin, where it's considered safe and it's affordable. Gosh, did I get to your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah. It sounds like, if I presume the NFT artwork is accessible.
Yep.
So that makes it, not cold storage.
Well, when we say cold storage, it's you don't want to edit It's not like Google Drive where you can freely go into your data and edit it in a kind of a near real time or real time fashion. Cold storage means it's accessible, it's retrievable, but it's immutable. It's not going to change, right? So you're not going to want to have documents you're constantly changing. It's going to be, could be business data. A lot of customers are interested in the ransomware side. So really then it becomes a question of, well, how much can I retrieve, how quickly? So that's really the business metric that's looked at for some of our customers. We're doing a lot of work with academics in terms of research, neuroscience, geospatial mapping, some of it, like you heard about the Holocaust, information, life sciences. So really at this point, there's far more demand than we have capability to store. And that's why our accelerator is tasked with like bringing on as many storage providers as possible. It's not a cheap thing, and this can't be done on like a personal computer. It's requires a lot of graphics cards and memory. Typically, a high-end miner will have 2 terabytes of memory, and like an A5000 or a series of A5000 graphics cards that are used for sort of the AI industry. That's for generating the Merkle trees for the DAGs. It's used to guarantee the veracity of the content.
Yeah, I was misunderstanding cold storage. I thought that you were referring to something archived and offline.
No, it's not off. Well, some customers want stuff offline,
Yeah.
But it is retrievable. And right now, one of the build outs is a high-speed retrieval network. So, the idea is you don't put it in there and modify it. You put it in there and it's going to be there for a long time. However, you can retrieve it as often as you wish.
Okay, so thank you. That was another great presentation. I'm feeling really good about this group of people. We're going to move on to Matt Davis and Ally Now. And Matt has an interesting background. And Ally Now is a company maybe could point to the future of Web3 as a way to decentralize ownership of some of the types of things that we felt were already decentralized by companies like Uber and DoorDash and those. So Matt, I'm going to leave it to you to tell us how you got into this and present Ally Now.
Thank you. I found Ally Now, after a lot of research, like everybody does. I ran the rabbit holes of different things and tripped into it. Starting out my career, I was doing business valuations, business appraisal work. Come to about 2017, I actually loved, the technology of blockchain, and I got into AI, NFTs, the whole gambit. And I actually wound down my office and started consulting with a lot of these blockchain-enabled firms directly with their partnerships. I was at a point installing and managing launch processes for incubated accelerators for AI platforms. I've been working with large VR footprints. Each are into NFTs in their own unique way, bringing utility to their respective markets. I found through my own education and interest, an intersection of these technologies. I'm speaking of VR, machine learning, AI applications, metaverse, and which is augmented, virtual, and mixed reality, and in the application of NFTs, and how they can provide utility to retail at the moment. There's a big gap in what we commonly refer to as legacy retail brick and mortar stores. We heard a lot about the supply chain and the inventory management earlier. So where I really found an interest was at that intersection where we can take all of the inventory within each of these businesses and empower these businesses to manage it in such a way so that they can bring it to their consumers and provide a better experience than their consumers are historically ready with. So when you provide like a digital or immersive shopping experience, you can do it in a number of ways. When you do it in a virtual environment, you can tie in all kinds of augmented gamification, advertisements. You can tie into memberships and loyalty points and just all kinds of like really cool, fun things. And I'm not speaking on behalf of Ally or anybody else at the moment, just from my experience with the direction that retail is going now. But Ally does happen to also be working on this stuff. We are cross-chain enabled. We're on Polygon, Phantom, Ethereum, and moving into others. So these immersive experiences that we're bringing or about to be bringing our consumer partners is from the standpoint where there's a lot of demand from the consumers because they're already within VR, they're already within immersive experiences, just having fun. And I learned that through the VR company that I was working with priorly, Neos VR, and they have all these people that just go there to interact, and there's really no use case. And so with Ally, we provide a use case. We've got over 1,000 branded customers, and each of those, like some of them are the biggest retail brands in the world. They want to, interact with their customers directly. And so by shopping virtually, they can do that. We provide them a wallet, and the checkout system is very seamless so that when they check out, they could do it through fiat or crypto or what have you. They can have their product at their doorstep in 30 minutes. And that's where the delivery system really steps in. We're finding out more and more that the customers or our merchant partners are asking for a direct line to their consumers rather than go through the middleman that DoorDash and Grubhub and Uber Eats is. So in going through that timeline, yeah, those third parties do send customers, but they also retain all the customer information. They don't share it with their merchant partners. And so we empower the merchants to go directly to the customer by giving them the software suite to do so. And they keep their customer information, which opens up a lot of promotion opportunities based upon geolocation and text, email notifications. We also do white labeling for them. So we'll set up their iOS, Android, and web applications so that they can drive their own business. What results is that the merchant saves about 40% or up to about 40% on their side of the delivery transaction. The driver actually makes 40% more, and the end user saves money on whatever product they're purchasing. A little bit about where we're going, where we are, my personal opinions mixed in there, just to sauce it up a little bit. We will see the VR headsets that we have now turn into like smaller and smaller glasses. So it'll go from headsets to goggles to glasses, maybe even to contact lenses, where we'll be able to program whatever experiences we want in there. We could have AI assistants in the form of an avatar, perhaps, along with the virtual twin of ourselves, go shop, and there'd be recommendation engines running in the background of the AI assistants based upon our personalized criteria. And so if I wanted to go shopping, now all of a sudden I can take that 3D scan of myself, insert it into the metaverse as a digital twin, and then have my virtual AI assistant give me the recommendations so that I save a lot of time. And those recommendations can be looks, it could be cost savings, it could be how quickly I'll receive this stuff. And there's a lot of applications we haven't even thought of yet. Direction that retail is going is very exciting, and it's all being empowered because of Web3. Web3's ability specifically to plug in and connect all of these technologies that we were never able to do so before, and they feed off each other. Some of our clients are here. Notice Kaiser Permanente, the drivers are HIPAA certified so that they can deliver pharmacy items. We have signature verification, facial verification, fingerprint verification, and then everything is on the blockchain so that you see where everything is at all times and who picked it up and pictures of when it was dropped off. Applies to any retail business that has delivery. So Kaiser is a good example, but we do a lot of food delivery also. So some of our integrations, we work with all the POS systems. And, I'm not going to cover everything, but I'd like to cover a little bit more about the metaverse because giants like JP Morgan and others are saying it's $1 trillion opportunity. So where retail fits in is more of a seamless interaction with their customers. These merchants are going to need a different POS system than they're historically had access to. So we're also building a POS system that will be able to transact NFTs, for example. Any inventory item can become an NFT. Any membership or loyalty points we can also associate with NFTs. We do gift cards and, all kinds of things. I mentioned a little bit about the orders and the delivery, but we also do order aggregation so that if you had a Grubhub and Uber Eats and a DoorDash, we can aggregate their orders into our portal. And so the merchant only sees one feed, and it really creates an easier process of delivery for them. We have dispatch portals and batching of orders. It's a very comprehensive suite that I can't cover in such a short amount of time. Here's a short competition matrix of how we compared it with a lot of the popular brands out there that are doing shopping and delivery. They may have wallets, they may have POS systems, but few really have the entire suite of product. Now, keep in mind, these are third parties. We are doing away with the third party and basically empowering the merchant to go directly to the consumer however they'd like to do it. So they get our entire software suite of products. There's no extra cost for anything. How we're set up is we charge $250 for the first location. It's a subscription cost, $100 every additional location. There's no monthly contract or anything like that. And there's no commissions per delivery. And so if a franchise or any other regionally built out business wants to push out delivery to their customers, they can do so very cheaply. Typically what we see is 1 or 2 locations trial, and then we see the dozens more ramp up after the trial. It takes 3 weeks to get there. Let me show you a little bit about our checkout experience, completely white label, merchant application. So all very professional. All this is on the blockchain, and you can refer to it at any time and from the user experience. So our timeline from getting set up as a merchant to actually being live is only a few weeks, and it's pretty cool how we have that set up. This is a little bit about the shopping. We're already speaking with parties that specialize in customizing shopping experiences, and so we give the ability, and these experiences per customer are fully customizable, so that if a customer walks into your retail virtual store, it could look however you want. It doesn't matter the footprint of the virtual setting. When they walk in the entryway of the store, it could be as big as you want it. So this is, a small bike store, or it's as big as, a Walmart or Superstore, however you'd like to set it up. And so we've got some pretty cool applications on the way that I wanted to share that, haven't really been released yet. Before I wrap up, I just wanted to reiterate, a lot of this is my own opinion. I can't speak to, any announcements that may or may not be released, or, I feel strongly based upon my experience, the direction that retail in general is going in.
So Matt, can you share with the group your position with this company?
So I am in charge of bringing affiliate partners in. So anybody that feels like they have a book of business maybe, or a network that has retail that would be interested in this type of thing, I'm bringing those people in so that they can build a residual income by their referral networks. And so every month that their referrals are basically in the system, or their customer relationships, I should say, they receive a residual every single month that subscription is ongoing for the life of the account. So it could really add up over time, and it's a nice residual income. That's really my position. As I interview, I make sure that they're good fits. They have an enthusiasm for technology, have the ability to have a nice customer relationship with our customers.
So you joined the company, so obviously you believe in this company.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of companies in Web3. I think that just the sheer market size of Uber Eats and Grubhub and the audacity that they have of charging so much, it's hard to rely on, a third-party delivery and for small, medium businesses and still, do well these days. So, I like that aspect. It's a little bit of giving back, but it's also, a little bit of the future.
I was going to have a quick question. You talked about the retail experience, but what about the driver experience? How the drivers are obviously getting paid for their deliveries. And
the driver's experiences, their onboarding process is very similar. There's a check on their driving records. We record their driver's licenses. And because they have to, we're HIPAA certified, so their experiences are the same where they would receive an alert for they can opt in or out of making that delivery. They retain 100% of their tips, which is really how they make so much more. We don't take any of their commissions for driving. It's based upon the driving distance and the amount of deliveries that they have.
How many drivers do you have in your company so far?
Last count, it was 110,000. It was up from like 90,000 just a few months ago.
I had a quick question. Is this live across like all cities within US, or it targeted some particular cities across US?
Yeah, we're fully live in the entire US. We actually cover, I believe it was like last count, 97.5%. And then those 2.5% rural regions that we're not able to cover, we do have third-party fallback. I just thought of something that the International Planetary File System is also involved with, and that's the standardization and the sharing of metadata between networks.
Yep.
I've heard a lot about standardizing processes for NFTs. Do you have any thoughts, or have you heard anything associated with Filecoin in regard to that?
Yeah, so IPFS is not the same as Filecoin. We use the same like SIDs, the content identifiers, which provide reliability to the data. But the difference is Filecoin's an incentivized network, right? So IPFS, you don't get paid for. You, out of the goodness of your heart or just the benefit to yourself, you can use IPFS to share data. But Filecoin built on top of that an incentive system, which is where the token and the blockchain portion of it came in. I know there are lots of different institutions using IPFS because it's commercially, it's free, it's available, it's open source. But again, it lacks a persistence layer, right? I mean, you can do things like pin things, but there's no guarantee your data will be around. With Filecoin, the intent is to, if you want it, it could be permanent. You could have it out there for 1,000 years, provided there's a mechanism to pay for it. We're looking at endowments as ways to make it long-term storage. But if you're willing to pay for it, then you can certainly guarantee that it'll be around as long as you want it to be around.
Follow-up question. You mentioned geospatial storage earlier. Have you come across any augmented reality applications for something like that?
Not really, because we're storing data, and the question is, how's that data being used? There's really almost no limit, whether it's audio, video, NFTs, you name it. There's a world full of data out there. They look at it, and we work with like Seagate, and they sell zettabytes worth of data storage systems, right? So the demand out there is huge, but it would really depend on the use case. Like, are you storing something that needs to be modified, which is not ideal for Filecoin, or do you need super high retrieval times, right? Sub millisecond, and then that would be a problem too if it has to be super fast. So that's
not modified, but let's say very accessible on demand for maybe virtual tourism, because I work in the virtual and augmented reality spaces, and so if somebody wanted to go to a museum, let's say, based upon geolocation within the museum, they could set up exhibits that somebody can tour with just their glasses, sites of the cities, or
right.
Anything, right? Extend to concerts and ball games, and so they can see where the concession stands are, how long the stands are currently.
Right.
So is that an application also? Is that
potentially, again, it goes in the specific use case. We've worked with museums that are interested in Web3 and storage, especially large archives, and worked with like cities, smart cities. But like in your use case, it would be something like, okay, I've showed up at the museum and I want to see this AR exhibit. Does it, let's say there's 10,000 different collections of AR tours. How long does it take to load that, to start playing it? That really becomes the real question. So if it's like acceptable, say, okay, it's going to take 30 seconds to load this into a local system, right? That would then hold whatever terabyte. I don't know how large you're talking about. It just depends on the size, right? But if I want a terabyte of data to drive this system, what's the speed going, what's that speed going to be like in terms of loading it so you can cache it locally? So I think if it were the right use case, yes, as long as you're not asking for like real-time type access where it's, again, sub-millisecond.
Yeah, and hey, Matt, to answer your question also, one of the projects that we're working on, a DAO, is called the Banned Books DAO. even though books are not huge in terms of, data storage, what we like to do is set up kind of similar to a museum, and where you can have somebody come in and view all of the books that have been banned throughout all the different jurisdictions in one location. Not only can you view it, but then we're hoping eventually the technology will allow for people to actually read the books if they want to. So there's kind of one location like that. So that's one of the uses we're definitely looking at right now.
Thanks.
We're gonna move on and we can come back to your questions because, again, I'm sure there are a lot about mini drawers or in my city, right? Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed learning about this and you did a great job. Jay Lay, who is the founder of Diddy Now, and his project is not as advanced as the other ones that we've looked at. However, I think that it's one of those things everybody really loves to see, which is relatively simple technology that can solve an enormous problem. And in the meetings where he's been in, everybody wants to connect with them immediately. Jay, can you please introduce yourself and your project?
Let me introduce myself. I'm a realtor down south in Houston, Texas. A couple years ago, I invested in one of the cryptocurrencies, and I wasn't like the performance. I tried to start a project so that can drive up the demand of the token I invest on. The project I have is called Crypto C14. So the problem I try to solve is counterfeiting problem. Counterfeit product is not just for the luxury good. Actually, the industry that most affected by counterfeit product, footwear and clothes, is accounting for 3.3% of world trade right now. So that means every $30 world trade, that's $1 in counterfeit or piracy goods. You might ask why is so much? What happened to the technology? The two most widely adopted technology or approach to identify counterfeit, one is called physical authentication. So what this technology does is they're going to study the material property to see what it's made of and how is the quality. But the problem for physical authentication is they cannot tell you who authorized to build the product. This approach is not working at all. And the second one right now is pretty hard. It's called track and trace technology. This technology will tell you where an authentic product should or should not be at. This technology also has a problem because if you make a copy of the tracking label or the tracking ID, then you will have the identical tracking information. Again, this solution is not working at all. The solution I'm working on is I call it digital title. So instead of to study the material property or find out where an authentic product should be, I'm going to check who authorized to build a product and who authorized to sell the product and who owns the product right now. That's the reason I call this solution digital title. So basically, we're going to perform a title search on every single product. We're going to find out whether it's authorized to build, authorized to sell by the brand owner. And then we're going to find out who owns the product right now. Because we don't want to buy from the wrong hand, for example, like a stolen product. No, that case we don't want to happen. So how does it work? It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So right here, the brand owner have to mint an NFT for every product they authorized to sell, authorized to build. And for this case, you can see the shoes right here. They're going to share the same token ID as the NFT. The same token ID right here create a link between the crypto asset and physical asset. And once the products are ready for sale, consumer are going to perform a title search to find out whether this token ID was minted by the brand owner. That's the first thing. And the second thing is whether this token and their corresponding material goods authorized to sell. If the title search is good, clean title, like just like when you're buying a real estate or buying a car, you're doing a car fair. So if the title is clean, then you get to go ahead to purchase the product. Once you get the product, then you're going to claim the title. You're going to take over the ownership. You're going to take over the NFT. So the NFT is going to be acting like a certification of authenticity and also a statement of ownership, just in case you want to resell the product. So you're going to sell the product and the token to the next buyer. I want to do a real life application I have. This is the interface You can check with cryptoc14.com to visit. For the consumer view, all the consumer have to do is they're gonna locate the product ID or token ID on the product, and then they're gonna perform a search. The first part is the picture of the product, and they're gonna based on the title search result, they're gonna give you a purchase advisory. For this case right here, everything's green, so it's good to purchase this item. If you want more, you can find out the issuer information. So who mint the NFT that with NFT ID, this long number right here. Another information you have is the product information. For this NFT, what kind of product it's going to be, when the NFT was mint, and when the product was activated. You want to see more, you can see the transaction details. They tell you when the NFT was created and when it was activated. So if everything good, just like in this case, everything green, so I'm gonna go ahead, I can take off the title token. That's a proof of statement of my ownership. Or if you're law enforcement or retail, instead of taking over the token, the title, you probably just want to validate. Remember, because the records are on blockchain, the token ID, the NFT ID is public information to everybody, even the bad actors. So in order to make sure you are buying the right authentic product, we have this verification code right here. So I'm going to validate. I'm going to bring out this bottom right here. So that's the NFT ID. I'm going to discover the verification code on the product as well. Let me check this one. I'm going to validate. So this one passed. So that means this product is an authentic product. Well, you might ask, it's difficult for the brand owner to issue an NFT for every one of their products they also like to build. And it's actually pretty straightforward. You can go back to this cryptoc14 again. You go to title token management. You're gonna issue an NFT. So for this case, for the product, so for example, like this one, I'm gonna create 50 NFT for the and bar. I'm gonna manufacture. So enter the barcode quantity you want, the part phase, and then you go ahead and confirm. So we're going to create 50 of this NFT right here. You can see the title token. We have a two format, long format or just the long format. It's going to take a while. It takes about like 60 seconds to confirm on the blockchain. But basically, for the IP owner, all they have to do, they change the product ID to NFT ID, and the product will be protected by the NFT.
I'm going to stop you here. Let's start with questions for Jay.
I have a quick question. So if I grab a legitimate pair of, say, those sneakers and grab the scan code and the verification code, and then I go and make 100 counterfeits and I copy that code, it seems to me that someone would think they had the real product.
Right. So every product have the NFT, or you can get an NFT that's authentic. Otherwise, it's fake. So because NFT is unique for this particular token ID, there's only one copy on the blockchain. So this one right here. So if the red shop to the right, he got an NFT, even though these two pair of shoes, they are physically they are identical, but the shop to the right, it can offer you the NFT. So they are the one selling the authentic product. The other shop, the blue shop to the right, they don't have the corresponding NFT. So
But if
either that was a replica or the seller is not the true owner of the authentic product.
But couldn't I just either look on the blockchain or look at one copy of a real product and just like take your NFT ID and just duplicate it and fake it? And then so when they look at it, when they look it up, it looks legitimate.
Yeah. So for example, just assume you are on this screen right now. You want to purchase the shoe. So you perform a search. You know that the NFT token are associated with this number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you say, okay, go ahead. I want to purchase this shoe, but providing you can transfer me the NFT token. If you cannot transfer me the NFT token with identical ID, that means this shoe is a replica. When you're buying a car, if the seller can you transfer you the title, would you buy it? You won't, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So this one you can think that NFT is a crypto version of certification of authenticity. and certification and statement of ownership. So he has to prove he's the true owner. Otherwise, I'm not gonna buy from him.
Well, there's a
Hey, Jay.
unique web address on the blockchain. So you've got.
Why I implement this on the blockchain?
So to support and really ask a question from the consumer side, if I think that I have a potentially fake item, do you have somewhat of a blockchain explorer with a user interface set up, or is there an easy system that I can go do that without having to do too many searches and be technical?
Yeah, I mean, you can just go to Crypto C14 or the official website. For example, right here, you can just type in one of the NFT ID you found on the product, on the tangible product, and then you perform a search. And for this particular one, the token was issued before the wallet expired. So that means it's not authorized to build. And if you want to look more details, you can check the issuer information. This wallet was set by this guy to expire on 2021, October 31st. And if you look when the token was issued, the token was issued after in 2022. That means the former employee they took the passphrase of the insurance wallet with them. So they tried to fake the NFT, but we find out on the time.
So if I'm a consumer and I didn't know necessarily where to go, or is this going to be licensed to third parties? Is it going to be like how would I find it if I was just just an everyday consumer? I wasn't technical.
That's a very good question. That's one part. Well, first I'm new to entrepreneur as well, so I think I need to talk to the brand owner to have everybody have a common path to go to this application.
I would think it'd be easier to work from the wholesaler back to the independent product rather than bring independent products on the and then move down the other way down the supply chain.
Well, I think I'm going to just throw something in here because I have actually thought about this a lot, because I have read some of Jay's emails back and forth about this project. I think that the Diddy Now platform could provide a sort of a back-end solution that would integrate with either the wholesaler or the reseller, that would be white labeled and allow the customer to search from the brand platform, but using the Diddy Now backend technology that would make the search super user friendly and not at all technical like we're looking at right now. Right, like nobody wants this. But if the platform, if the Diddy Now platform created that white label component, that would be super unique and valuable to the brands, because they could just put a little thing in their nav bar and the customers could click on it and search in a user-friendly way.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the direction I try to go. For example, if I'm the owner of a detailnow.com, I want to have the search utility will be at this part, the company name.com followed by DITI. That's the if like a Nike can put like a Nike.com.DITI and then using this application, or Adidas. So everybody have pretty much the same path. So that case they won't be faked by the counterfeiter, because sometimes counterfeiter they set up a fake website. Another thing is Crypto C14. This one is a unified search place. This one you can search for any brand name, because I have a database for all those certificates for those no wallet address. As long as it's like your phone book, as long as your name's on my phone book and you are the one who mint the NFT, then this code is authentic code.
Interesting.
So a real analogy, I guess, would be for the merchants that have like the UPS tracking app, or like a little icon on their website, so they could just click on that and see the history of the tracking. Kind of similarly, this would take them to your verification system. Is that
Yeah, I mean, on the product itself, we can have a two barcode. One barcode that bring out cryptoc14.com or the official brand name.com.biti. And the second barcode is second QR code is the NFT token ID itself. We can do that, yeah.
Okay, well, we've looked at 4 projects, we've looked at 4 sectors. One thing I always have to ask is, who are the competitors? Let's start, well, since we're here, let's start with you, Jay.
Actually, WeChain has one project also going into this direction called realitems.io. You guys can check on that. I don't have too much information on it, but the last video I saw is they're going to charge $5 per NFT they create. So that means they're going to adding up $5 to every product they want to protect by their solution. Another company is called Ariane. It's a French company. The solution they have, I would say, is much slower than my solution. And I think I showed you guys earlier to create NFT that's pretty much less than a second. But for Ariane, it takes them about 30 seconds to create one NFT. So it's not going to be good for like very large scale, I would say.
You have 30-second advantage on your closest competitor.
I can create an NFT at no cost, basically, because I provide all the source code how to build their own blockchain. And
Okay.
also the performance is super compared to my competitors.
David, let's start with LA now. We're going to go backwards now. So LA now, who's your competitor in this space? Are there other Web3 delivery services?
They keep the customer information though. The closest one without any commissions is Toast, but they do keep the customer information. There's no opportunities to market directly to or to actually engage with the customers on delivery. So if there was ever a problem, which actually ends up doing questionable things to your brand, impacting it in various ways. And on the general delivery arm, there's Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Shopify.
Of course. So with Toast is more direct competitor to what you're offering with the 100% the drivers model. Do they also have the model where a driver can drive for multiple companies? They're all signed up on a single program?
I don't believe so. Like they're Web3, but they do white label, for your website, and I think they can do it for your mobile applications also. But they're not an entire suite of products, and they're not moving towards like a more interactive shopping experiences and whatnot that I know of.
I find 100,000 cars incredible, frankly. I guess that would be my next question is, how did your company, if you know, because I know you're not the founder, but how do you get 100,000 cars to participate? How do you even find a driver without a massive amount of publicity?
Enable them to make 40% more than what they're currently making doing the same thing.
Do you just put that out on wherever and it just like goes like gangbusters?
Yeah, it's been mostly word of mouth, and then they of course have resources that they can research.
I'm gonna move back to Web3 and ask the same question with the data storage. Who are your competitors? I know you have on one side you have AWS, but on the other side, you've told me that there's really not a lot that is issuing unique tokens for small amounts of data storage. Who's the field? And might add that if you Google it, you can find competitors that do offer staking for small amounts of data storage. And I'll say there's 2 companies here. One is Web Storage, and one is David's new project, which is possibly creating DeFi where you can stake your Filecoins even if you're small and not accredited and huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can speak about the competitors in terms of the crypto and Web3, landscape. I'll let Stu talk more about, I think, the competition and the storage providers. In terms of the cryptocurrencies themselves, I think the closest ones would be Arweave and Storage. Sia Coin, I think their developers abandoned the project, even though it's still on a decentralized system. So those are really the three big ones. But Filecoin, I think it has more than 85% of the available storage right now on Web3.
Yeah, that's right. There's probably a dozen blockchain-based outfits out there, but they just get smaller and smaller. So for instance, you mentioned Sia, Arweave, and Storage. MadeSafe was one. I'm not sure if they're active. Internext was a European-based one. I'm not sure where they're at with it, frankly. And then there's even smaller ones out there. So, yeah, we don't really see them actually from a Filecoin perspective. Our competition really is AWS, right? In terms
Yeah.
of scale and large scale storage, being able to sell to an enterprise customer versus sort of a retail market, right? Like somebody that just says, hey, I've got some files I want to store someplace. We don't really target that, although there are some businesses that built a very easy interface. And that's the other thing about the Filecoin network that is compelling is there are thousands of application developers who are independent, right? And they develop systems to connect into the Filecoin network or the IPFS network. In fact, we have bridges between the two. And that's what made like Microsoft a powerhouse, right? Wasn't that their product was necessarily the best, but they had this huge developer environment that was able to leverage, the product and offer consumers what they wanted. So, Filecoin is in that same situation where we've just got this very large developer base that's growing their stuff.
I just want to say a huge thank you. Stuart, you really contributed a huge amount. Dave, as always. Jay, it was wonderful to have you here. Matt, thank you so much. I'm always really amazed at the entrepreneurial spirit and what people have come up with in this new space, and I hope we continue the journey together. So thank you, and thank you for everybody who came and lurked. And I hope you all have a wonderful night and a wonderful week.
Great.
So bye. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much. Good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for organizing this.